How's your morning been?
Great. Finally, a beautiful day, and
I know, right?
it's fantastic when because I'm obviously up, and you can kind of see the view of the mountain, and I'm in the sunlight, and I've got my animals, and days like today is just the morning is just I love it.
Can't complain.
Can't complain. It's just fantastic. Yeah,
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you for coming.
no problem.
I've been
Thanks for
very
being on.
excited to talk to you.
Great.
I mean, yeah, I've been telling everybody that I'm having this conversation, and so take us back to that, I guess, the starting point when this all kind of, you're living in Tokyo,
Yep.
Japan,
Yep.
and in this creative space. You have a very successful life.
Yeah.
Tokyo must be fun.
Tokyo's a lot of fun. Whole different world from here. Just
Yeah.
the contrast is just pretty
Yeah.
extreme.
And then you come to New Zealand to renew your visa,
Yep.
and what happens?
So I kind of came back. I did actually go to Singapore for a couple of years. I was working at kind of in Ogilvy and places like that, and I kind of just decided I didn't want to stay there. I was there for a couple of years, and I probably would have preferred to actually stayed in Tokyo. But that big earthquake kind of kicked me out of Tokyo in a way because I'd just gone freelance, kind of 6 months to a year before that big earthquake, and I had my own kind of productions going. I had a account with Red Bull, and I was doing really well. And I was just at that point where I was going to scale it up and actually kind of give it a name and start going for it. And the earthquake hit and just shut down like all this work that I had, like because I had all these big events coming up for Red Bull and stuff, and just everything just turned off. And I was like, whoa! And I actually invested a lot of my own money into these projects because I was just kind of getting going. I was like, oh, and the company's just cancelled it, so I just lost,
The whole sort of momentum.
Yeah, and I lost all the business. I lost quite a lot of financial as well. So then I went to Singapore just to kind of start working again in a full-time way. And then I thought, where am I going to go next? It's either the US or UK. So I do have an ancestry visa for the UK. So I decided to come back to get that. And somewhere in the process of kind of applying for that, getting that done, I was kind of like not in a hurry to go as well. And I was just kind of waiting for that to get done. And then I just happened to one day, if you've heard the story, rescue a lamb.
Yeah.
Which sounds a little crazy and left of field. But it was.
What are you just on a walk? Are you? Or?
It was on a day exactly like today, which is beautiful, sunny, perfect, kind of cold. Feels like winter, even though we're spring day. And I was just going for a walk to see the mountain, beautiful view, etc. And on the way back, I just noticed this kind of weird, kind of white, just blob. I was like, kind of just caught my eye, like that's just out of not natural kind of thing. And then when I started walking towards it, it just leaped up and saw me and started kind of barring at me, help, was as loud as it could. And it was a little lamb, and I was like, oh wow! And it was often a fenced off area that was electric fence, so I don't know how he got himself in there, and he was bounding towards the electric fence and getting a shock, and I had to kind of quickly just jump in, get him out. Long story short, he, as I kind of decided to keep him and look after him, he just kind of got under my skin. He's just such a fun animal. He's just got so much personality. It's kind of like it just blew my kind of mind in terms of we normally think sheep dumb. And, we see them getting chased by dogs and going around in circles and stuff, and they just look dumb. But when they're just treated like you would your dog and they're not scared, then they're just completely different, and their kind of all the personality comes out. And the more I kind of, was just in through that evolution of my own thinking, it was like, they're just no different. So at some point, I just decided that, well, in New Zealand, obviously there is a lot of need for just a sanctuary for them because there's so much going on in industry when there's just huge numbers, just pretty confronting numbers. Every year I just die from like preventable hypothermia and other reasons. So I just thought, wouldn't it be cool to just at least have one space where they kind of safe? And obviously it's a bit of a token. It's like can't save them all, but it's just kind of like a sign of respect. We've got one space in the country that we're a lucky few, get to live out a great life.
Yeah, I think that's pretty special because it's not a space for just the lambs to come and have a human-like experience or how we treat dogs or other pets, but it's also can become so much more, like you have in your goals and visions in the future, which I'm very excited to talk to you about.
Yeah.
But it's also about, kids coming for educational programs and getting to understand and know more about. And the first question kind of came to my mind was like, oh, I'm interested to learn the DNA of a sheep and how do they behave and what is their intelligence and what do they do. And, we are all like this like DNA program in our body that goes back 10,000 years or millions of years. They've been learning how to build this intelligence and behaviors.
Yeah.
And we can behave totally differently if we are treated as a factory and slaughtered for the survival of another species. Or we are treated with respect and kindness and love and given the tools to be useful. So to me, that's pretty special. It's no matter how much you are saving or doing, the impact of that is magnitude in different magnitudes. Engaging farmers, for example, in terms of education, supporting them. So it's pretty awesome.
Like I'm 100% like I'm not like against farmers or kind of getting involved in any kind of any kind of thing like that. I mean, actually help farmers. Like, 'cause, I mean, a lot of farms don't want to see the animals just die of hypothermia. There's no fun walking around in the morning and just picking up dead lambs. So the more I can kind of scale, I can actually help farmers, and I build up quite a lot of knowledge into how to kind of spot the kind of main problems they have, and I could go and administer antibiotics, and I would do all that kind of stuff for free just to help farmers as well. So and then the reality is, if when I do get the kind of big chunk of land that I need, I'll need to populate it. So I'll need to work with farmers and say, if you've got a problem, text me, come out and grab it. And then it'll be, I'll help them. And if the farmer then wants to, if it's probably a case where it needs extensive help, the farmer will probably surrender it to me. But if it just needs a bit of antibiotics, I'll do that. But I could populate a huge sanctuary very, very quickly.
That's awesome.
That's the goal.
So how many lambs do we have in New Zealand right now, and how many of these are dying or need help?
Well, the thing is, they breed them for kind of the, it's a business. They breed them for business reasons.
Sure.
In winter. And so, in spring, there's just like right now, there's just so much grass for them to gorge on. And it kind of gets them up to market weight. They have these market weights. So they want to basically get them up to this kind of ideal weights as fast as they can, etc. It's a business. So they're just input for it. So that means that they're often born right when the weather is just, we get those kind of late spring storms or the kind of winter storms. It always seems to be more and more towards the end of winter where we're going to get that worse weather. And so unfortunately, they just can't handle it. I mean, they're just born with like a little bit of reserve fat. Like they have a bit of what they call a brown fat around the organs and that. They can kind of keep them going for a little while. But as soon as they use up that, they just crash. And so if it's really cold, if it's raining, they just can't handle it. And they just start going downhill. And once they've kind of gone downhill, unfortunately, it's just this kind of slow, pretty horrible. I've witnessed it. Just
must be a high rate, like 30% of them that go.
I don't know the percentage of them, but it's I don't know the whole figure. I mean, the figures I've read between Australia and New Zealand is millions. So it's a heck of a lot. There was a storm. I've got a link on my website. I think it was about 4 years ago. I think it was Hawke's Bay. Just one spring storm came through. 2 days of just kind of terrible weather. And the news report was estimating 100,000 lambs died in just that one storm. And that's not even down south, right? So down south is where you're going to have most of it. So you're talking huge, huge numbers every year. And so I think consumers would find it confronting if they really knew. And I've witnessed them in that situation and, trying to save them. And, it's it's kind of an awful way to go because
It is.
they just slowly go down, and it takes quite a long time for them to kind of eventually go. So it's definitely suffering, and they're not like human babies. When they're born, they're kind of awake and alert and conscious. So they're not like human babies, which kind of take a long time to kind of turn on, so to speak. They're kind of there within an hour. They're very aware. Obviously that continues on for a few weeks until they're really.
And it's not to put consumers off. It's about being educated, understanding of what's going on and what you're consuming. Really, it's consumer awareness, which is important.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big trend, isn't it? Like everyone wants to be aware. Like a lot of inflation.
What are you
to
wearing?
do with people
how it's made and
getting more concerned about with the inputs, right? So it's and that's part of the reason why I don't ever focus on farmers so much, because as far as I'm concerned, they're creating a product, free market product for consumers.
Sure.
So it's the demand that's kind of keeping that in place from consumers. It's, the farmers are providing, completely legally free market product like an iPhone or whatever. So it's really the consumers in the market that's driving it.
Which is so refreshing to hear for someone with your background, taking products to a market, understanding how you do that messaging and how you work with these people that are taking consumer-based products, versus to someone that's just like a greenie.
Yeah, right.
They're out there going, no, farmers are the bad people, the villains, and you're eating animals, and we're going to, chain ourselves to your farms, and, it's just insane. And it's refreshing to see someone with a very different perspective, being respectful of, hey, look, we are human. We are a species that survives from mass murder of other species. Yeah. That's where we're at.
I mean, it's
unfortunately,
it's fantastic to hear actually somebody even kind of say that, to hear, because we just don't. I think that's just one of those things that we just bury right down the bottom and don't ever think about. And if you do ever confront people with that, they get really angry.
Everybody has a lot of trauma to unpack. Instead of going to seeing a therapist, they just trigger.
They get really triggered. Yeah, so I don't even go there, because I mean, like, it's just like they get really triggered. And then they go really quite extreme on the ideological side, where you get into mass ideology. Hey, we've been eating it for whatever for millions of years or whatever. And it's like, well, we've also been like going to war for millions of years. We've been thieves have been, plagued us for millions of years, all sorts of terrible things. Just because we've been doing something for a long time doesn't make it a good thing. Yeah. It just means it's something that we've been doing for a long period of time. And it's like a 50-50 line. 50% of the things we've been doing for a long period of time are, say, good. 50% of the things we've been doing for a long period of time, like stealing from each other, which is still happening in modern society, was something would have done from the very beginning. I mean, nature is kind of almost set up to be who's the best thief, right?
Yeah, it is. So you find this sort of chance of a situation, there is a human aspect that kicks in of love and care and looking after this lamb. Then you have, you get your head around how you do that. And you start giving them names, which Beans is one of them, which I love. Yeah. And then there is a few more, right? Yeah. What's then? How does that develop to that next phase? Like, what are you thinking? What sort of space do they need, and what will make them thrive? And how do you work with other farmers to source more of these lambs that you can care for, permanent or temporary? What are the legal issues around, having, I imagine, a lot of verbal agreements with these farmers that just come and drop and then they change their mind, versus to, full surrender where it's in your care and your responsibilities. What's that next phase?
Well, firstly, I'm very, very careful about that. Like all the animals that I've got, I get a signed adoption form for. So,
Okay.
yeah, all of my animals. I wouldn't take in any animal until I get that signed adoption form, just for that exact reason. Someone could turn around 6 months ago, actually, that's my animal, give it back or something. Or,
Yeah.
So all of my animals have a signed adoption form from the person that I get it from.
And that's a legal way of doing things in New Zealand? You can adopt an animal to someone else?
Yeah, I don't know all the exact legal details.
Yeah.
I will, and then my next step when I kind of level up, I'll definitely consult a lawyer on getting that.
Sure.
But for right now, I've just kind of copied what SPCA do basically, because it's the same thing with the SPCA. Like when you go to SPCA with an animal that you want to surrender, they'll make you sign a form to say that it's now belongs to the SPCA.
Yeah.
So I've just copied them basically, but I will do that more. But really, somewhere along the line with beans, I decided that I did want to do this more. And there's actually a big movement overseas, and it's called farm animal sanctuaries.
Right.
It's a little under the radar here, but it's actually quite a big movement.
Farm animal sanctuaries.
Yeah.
Right.
There are multiple farm animal sanctuaries in every state in the US now. It's a big movement. There will be thousands and thousands of them, right? And it's just people who they're kind of providing community service in a way, because they often get animals that just have fallen through the cracks. Like one of the farm animal sanctuaries in Australia, a big one called Edgar's Mission, they're quite big. They pull in a lot of money through donations. They're a big organisation, staff, etc. They just got one not so long ago that actually escaped a slaughterhouse.
Really?
A sheep, that somehow got out. I think probably just got the timing
Knew
perfectly.
exactly where to go.
Yeah, perfectly timing. Like somebody probably opened the door at exactly the right time. It bolted or something, and it managed to get out. And then when they're in that kind of flight mode, they can just do ridiculously high jumps and stuff. They probably just managed to get through, who knows, a window or something. Managed to get out and then just took off. And it was like an industrial kind of area. And then I think it was just a matter of somebody saw it, who contacted the sanctuary, and they just rush out there because they know they need to get there fast before kind of police, etc. And get to it, and they managed to tranquilize it because it was so it was just going nuts. And to get it, so a lot of the farm animal sanctuaries actually get animals by being a community service like that. So instead of going to that one would have ended up at the pound probably. So they kind of take it, and there's occasionally there's terrible accidents when trucks tip over, and you've got a whole bunch of injured animals and things. Farm animal sanctuaries will come along and kind of rescue as many of those animals as they can, and they just kind of pick up cracks. They even go into slaughterhouses or around slaughterhouses, and sometimes they're just piles where they throw ones that are just maybe a bit sick, or they think they're already dead, or they think it's going to die, and they'll just throw them in a pile. Yeah. And some of the kind of heart-wrenching stories of people have gone in and then just seen a pile and then just seen one, like a little hoof move or something. Yeah. And
so carry on.
And so that they pulled it out, and it was just sick, and they've rehabilitated it. And now it's kind of running around farm animal sanctuary, but it's a big movement globally. There's a whole lot of them. It started with one called Farm Sanctuary, New York State, and that was way back in the 80s. And it's become a big movement. So I'm kind of part of that, I guess.
Yeah, so you kind of fall in love with this idea. You do a bit of research. You decide to lease some land, and get some more lambs in, and then kind of build that whole the story around the Saint Beans Sanctuary Farm for lambs. Yeah. Tell me the story of the name.
Name of Beans. It's pretty weird little story, because he's called Beans because when I found him, he was just, even though he's weak, he's on his own. He kind of just leapt up, and it was just so full of beans. It was just going crazy. Yeah. So I just called him Beans straight away.
And this was the first one.
This was the first one
that you found. Yeah.
This is the very first one. I just called him Beans. I kind of just said, "You're so full of beans," and I just went, "I'm going to call you Beans." Yeah, that was within about a minute of finding him. Yeah, and then this is kind of what really triggered the idea of I'm going to have to do a farm sanctuary. Was when he sheds. He's a breed called a Wiltshire. Yeah, and they don't get shorn. They actually shed their wool. Which is what all sheep do naturally. That's just that we've bred them to grow extra wool and not to shed it.
Right.
But naturally, obviously, that would shed it. Otherwise, it'd just get too hot in summer.
Mm.
And when he shed, he just left these two little perfect, like, wings on his back. Like,
Wow.
absolute perfect. Like, and it wasn't me kind of like
An angel wings or
angel wings, yeah. So they were just perfect, and they were right on the back of his shoulder, right? So it's just
like a unicorn.
yeah, totally. And then like absolutely perfectly shaped. And I didn't do any manicuring or anything. It was completely natural. And I was like, what are the chances of finding a lamb that completely radically changed my life plan, who grows these little angel wings on his back?
Yeah.
So that's where the saint came from. So
Right.
Saint Beans.
Saint Beans. That's awesome. And so how long have you been running the sanctuary in this land that you've had so far?
It's about 5. It'll be 5 years, 4 to 5 years now. Yeah.
That's awesome. Obviously, you've got some big challenges ahead. The land that you're using is being sold.
Yeah.
It's going to get sold
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
And you're looking for, a permanent place to kind of, relocate to. How's that going?
Yeah, it's just really like I would like a bigger, because obviously the bigger the land I've got, the more I can, actually be a community service, because like the more animals I can rescue, the more I can make it a space that people can come visit, the more I can kind of like, make it an ecological focus as well. So that's kind of the long-term goal, is to say a bigger property that's for people, nature, and for the animals. So, because I'm not a commercial operation, I'd be able to restore a lot of the, anything that's a bit hilly, or, anything around water, etc. So you better make it like a really ecological, paradise, hopefully, and then make it so it's great for people to come and visit and to be able to kind of walk around, and obviously for the animals to have a great life.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the longer term goal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly not fun to be moving around a lot. You
No,
want
yeah.
something where you can kind of get to your ultimate vision of 100-hectare land, where you have this huge space where there's a lot more happening than just a sanctuary for lambs, like visitors, overnight stays, education programs, business, off-site meetings, leadership, and a lot of that stuff going on. So you want somewhere where you can start now with 10 hectares, and then 40, and then 100, instead of moving around a lot.
Yeah, obviously it'd be fantastic.
That'll be ideal.
It'd be fantastic to go straight to the long-term vision of, like, say, 100 hectares, and to be able to fund it all and start building it all out and plan it, doing all that. That's a bit of a pipe dream right now, because I'm unable to kind of, because it's a non-profit, I'm also self-employed. It's very, very difficult to get the finance. So
would you switch it to a profit? A for-profit?
I would keep it. No, I think we would keep it, because a lot of it is donations, so it needs to be non-profit. But I think in the non-profit space in general, the good ones do look at it as a business anyway. So I would look at it as a business and try and get as much income as I can, because it's just healthy. It means you can do what you want to do. So that's the lifeblood of it all, is to increase income. So I was very much looking at my skill, my background, working with brands to kind of apply brand thinking across the whole thing in terms of making it a social space. Because one of the weird things with sheep as well is, like, when they trust you, because they're non-predators, right?
Right.
They're really calming. Right. There's something about them as super zen, right? So I think they're fantastic for people to kind of mental health as well. There's something about them, companion animals obviously great for that as well, but there's something about sheep just being really calming, and even when they're just around you, kind of munching away. And again, these are ones that are obviously friendly. Otherwise it's going to run off. But there's something really calming about them. I think it's great for mental health. Like, whenever I get stressed, I just go with my animals and it just drifts away.
I must say the branding is exceptional. I love the branding in terms of how it sucks me into this emotion you're talking about, how they're calming, the zen, those colors you've used, the logo, and how that kind of, and then branding built environments is quite fun too. When you like, that's my business, like I'm in that space. It's super fun. And I just can't stop thinking about this idea that having in terms of if you were pitching this to investors, for profit or non-profit, or sustainability groups,
Yeah.
or climate groups,
Yeah, yeah,
or animal welfare groups, I can't stop but thinking about this idea that this could be right next to the green school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Absolutely. And it would be fantastic for, children to come out and just
Yeah.
see the animals from a different perspective and bond with them, and just, at least see them a little bit more for what they are, as opposed to what we think they are.
And that kind of solves a lot of your problems, because they've done the whole thing, acquiring land, regenerating land, building spaces on that land for children.
Yeah.
But you're kind of like following the same blueprint in many ways, in terms of working with local bodies, and that kind of just adds a lot of zing to your pitch.
Yeah.
That it's possible, and people have done it.
Yeah.
And we can do it too.
100%.
Mm.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of that would be fantastic. I'm not betting on outside help. I'm all trying to do it as much as I can myself, and try to build up my donors and etc. But yeah, outside help like that would just make me be able to do it so much faster. So that would be fantastic, and I do think it would be a great community space for kind of anyone and everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a guy who built a retail point of sale app called Vend.
Yep, yeah, I heard of that.
Vaughan, I can't remember his last name. And then he sold that, and then he decided to buy a huge land, I think in, I don't know where, Coromandel maybe, somewhere in that area.
Okay, yeah.
And he's kind of done a similar thing, regeneration,
Right.
but monetize it around business trips. So big buses that fill up business in Auckland for a day trip, go, and there's like lots of facilities, meeting rooms, event spaces. They do programs for all these people to get into the land and the forests around.
Awesome.
And whether it's animals or trees or all that kind of stuff. So yeah, huge opportunity for businesses to get out.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I often think I should have. It's a pity I didn't stay a bit longer and do a startup like that or something, so I could just fund it all myself.
Yeah,
because I do have that skill set to do that.
Yeah, that's super fun and painful too. Investors sometimes it's just like,
I know.
Don't talk to me, please. I get a lot of requests for like investment pitches and things on LinkedIn or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I can give you 2 minutes and you can only ask one question, but you have to have funding ready to be invested in like a week.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm not in the mood.
Yeah.
You can run around the world and do like 200 pitches and get nothing.
Yeah, for sure.
And people just want you to come in so they can tick a box that they have gone through 100 pitches and then they have chosen 2. And it's like, man, fuck off. I'm not a pawn in your machine type thing. I'm trying to do something important. So I want people around that think long term and want to come on board because they want to come on board. So
cool.
tell me, break down this vision of what 100 hectare St. Beans Sanctuary and Eco Lodge looks like.
Sure. I mean, it looks like, again, it's a lot of work, even if I had the money right now, and it's not straightforward in terms of, allowing people on with the animals. There's a whole kind of a range of things. Like they do need to be kind of, either pre-planned days or kind of like tours when somebody is with you type of thing. So there's it's definitely not super easy, but the long-term goal is to have that bigger space where I can rescue hundreds and hundreds of animals. Some of them would be friendly, some of them wouldn't be. Maybe they'd be out and further out in paddocks, just living, doing their thing. Obviously at that point I would need more people involved because you've got a lot of animals to look after and you can't just do all that yourself. So it would be scaling it up. It would be looking at obviously radically increasing current donations, getting a lot more subscribers, and then building making a very ecological focus, and then having obviously the facilities that you need, like some big barns and things like that.
Yeah.
Obviously I would need accommodation for myself, and then it'd be great to have some kind of eco lodge, have a few like not tiny houses, I guess, but just like little cabins and things where people can actually come and stay as well as a source of income.
Yeah, and Airbnb experiences.
Have a shop as well that kind of maybe people can do a tour and come to the shop. And then try and get those kind of multiple streams of income. You've got a shop, you've got accommodation, you've got a place that maybe people can even hire out for certain events and things. Maybe possibly even weddings.
And visits.
Yep.
Kids.
And then all the visits and kids, etc. as well. And then build up a bigger donation, group as well. And that way you would then have pretty substantial sustainable income, which is actually, so the sanctuary I mentioned before, Edgar's Mission, they've basically already done this in Australia, in Victoria,
right?
And they've got 100 hectares or so, or I think it's 130.
Did they build it all in one go, or did they do it phase by phase?
They've been going for 20 years.
Wow.
So it's phase by phase by phase, and they do all that.
I think
kind
for
of thing.
something like this, that's kind of like makes a lot of sense. I can see this being like a 20-year thing that you would just chip away at.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, we know without winning the lottery, I could scale it all up and do it in say 5 years maybe.
Yeah.
But it's realistically it's gonna take 10 years at least kind of to get it up to the point when people can be regularly say visiting, and there's accommodation and stuff like that. So it's a long journey, but I'm fully dedicated to it. I'm going to just keep chipping away at it.
Absolutely. And these lambs, I mean, they kind of spend their whole life in the sanctuary.
100%. Yeah,
that's awesome.
They're going to have. They get once you're into if you're a lamb, once you're in St. Beans, you're there for life. You're going to be cared for over your entire lifespan, and you just get to. I mean, they actually just love their life, just like we do, just like our companion animals do. They just love and value their life, and when they feel safe and happy, they're just the personalities are so different. They're very calm. They're like very clever and can be so frustratingly clever sometimes because they're always like outsmarting me. Like when they know where the food's kept and stuff like that, they're just they're just constantly outsmarting me, even though I know all their tricks. They still just manage to
find ways. Kind of like a game for them, maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of a game, and then because they're not scared of you, they're using their full intelligence to kind of to try and trick you. And like for example, Beans, who was obsessed with kind of sheep nuts, the pellets that they love. He actually figured out the mechanism of the door. So I'm like, when you feel like someone's staring at you in the back of your head, and you look around, someone's looking at you, and there's Beans just like staring at me intensely, and he wasn't just like trying to figure out how to get in, because they were just kind of like trying to butt the door if they wanted to try and get in. He was going on the next step. He was like figured out the mechanism. He's like watching my hand go like that, and then he would come up afterwards and he'd go up with his mouth and he'd try and turn it. And occasionally he would actually get in, but most of the time, because sheep can't open their mouths too far, he can't get in. But it's just, I think it's cool. I just found that pretty intelligent in the terms of he'd taken it to the next level rather than just trying to headbutt the door. He'd actually figured out the mechanism.
That's awesome. And I really love that there is a lot of videos and content on your Instagram page. And it's awesome to kind of keep track of all these stories and watch these stories and share them with your kids, and then kind of bring them to the sanctuary as well for a face-to-face. And one of the guys that I enjoy a lot who does similar content is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And he's got a sanctuary as well.
Yeah.
And he has like these ponies.
Donkeys?
Donkeys?
Yeah,
is it donkeys?
Yeah, I think pony donkeys.
And they have really funny names, and they're always like in the kitchen and trying to eat the food or do something they're not meant to be doing while Arnold's doing a video. And it's just really cool fun to see their intelligence, their cheekiness, their fun, and how that kind of adds to your household and the people around you. And imagine kids coming and visiting, and educational programs, or vets doing their educational programs, or farmers coming.
Yeah.
It just is. It adds to the ecosystem of human life
100%.
and
Yeah.
the land and the animals.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah. It just changes your perspective so much when you are with kind of any animal with kind of comparable intelligence. Whether it's and for the people that really don't get it because they just think sheep dumb and that kind of thing, it's like just if you just kind of like flip it to maybe an animal that you do have a bit more respect for, like I don't know, a dolphin, a pilot whale.
Yeah.
Like we get pilot whale strandings, and it's like everybody rightly, I think, reacts to that as it's a terrible thing, and
Yeah.
it's sad. But wait a minute.
Yeah, we're so kind of, born to know the role of a shepherd, like a classic shepherd, right? You're always
Yeah.
shepherding these things towards a timeline, that to which is all around the production of a product.
100%.
And then you come along with this mindset of a century and do things differently, and they're there to live their lives, but also be part of an ecosystem that provides a different type of product,
Exactly.
an experience, a stay,
Exactly. Yeah.
an educational program that is cohesive with the human species.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, people get to see a different personality of a sheep and a lamb.
Yeah.
And you have to see it to believe it, I guess.
Yeah, no, you do. No, but it's a really good point, is that what I'm doing is actually a product, right? And it does generate income. Like it has donors, right, who like what I'm doing, and it is there is a product there, right? And it's the animals living a happy life. It just seems so kind of left field and counterintuitive to the especially in New Zealand,
Yeah.
which is just sees the product as what ends up in the supermarket, but it is a product.
And they're being useful as well. They're not just hanging out there and living their lives doing nothing.
Yeah, no,
They're actually being useful. They're being useful to the experiences we're creating.
exactly. And if people can come and visit them, it's good for mental health.
Yeah.
It's just a fantastic place to kind of even visit and just interact with the animals anyway. For people that even don't have pets, or even people that do have pets, whatever, it's just open to anyone. So there's 100% a product there. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when do you think you'll be able to get it to a point where you've got a new location going that's hopefully like through your donors, it's of ownership, not of lease, not through lease, but through an ownership?
Yeah.
And then when do you think you'll start opening it up for experiences?
Well, it is a big task ahead of me in that respect, because I do need, because I can't just put down a sizable deposit and finance the rest. I do need to somehow finance that gap.
Yeah.
Somehow through a bit of family help and my own savings and donors.
Yeah.
I need to get more donors, especially like ones that subscribe is really helpful.
Yeah.
Because then that's an income. I'm still working on increasing my own income because I'm self-employed. And so I'm kind of just chipping away at that, but the reality is, how much land, how much.
Yeah.
Like I could maybe go right out the sticks and do it now, but it would make it pretty difficult. It would make it pretty difficult. So right now I'm just kind of buying my time in terms of how long I can stay where I am, and saving and increasing donors. But to fast track that, if I was able to kind of get on some land, but the key to it all really is the sanctuary owning it.
Yeah.
Because if the sanctuary doesn't own it, then what's the point of starting to plant a whole lot of trees or build a new barn? Or I can't do anything. I'll just be kind of existing there with the animals, and then at any point in time, the landlord, the owner might just say, "Hey, we decide to sell, or we don't want you here. And that happens actually to a lot of sanctuaries around the world. I've just seen horror story after horror story. A lady I saw in the UK the other day who was been on land for 20 years that she'd leased, and she'd really filled it up with animals, like almost slightly, it is very hard to say no, so I completely sympathise with her, but you just, at some point you do have to say no, but she really filled it up to absolute capacity. And then it doesn't take much. It takes a neighbour to start complaining or something, and then the landlord's going, "You got to go," and there's not a lot of the authorities and everything are just going to go with the landlord. So you can get in a pretty bad space really quickly. So it's really important I think it's just foundational for a sanctuary to own the land, so you never get into that situation. Touch wood, because it's terrible. That's what kind of keeps me up at night, is the fact that I do have these animals now that I feel 100% obliged to give a full life to, but right now, because I haven't, I don't own that land with that large debt. I don't own any land with that large debt. That is a concern already for me, right? So I can't scale it up until it's land that the sanctuary owns.
Yeah. So what's the capacity for how many animals you should have as a healthy number for 100 hectares?
Oh, you better have a lot. Like if I had 100 hectares, I would envision quite a lot of that being, forest and regenerating, and who knows, you could even have some mountain bike tracks or something.
Right.
And you would, maybe you'd have, say, 50 acres of that to be kind of pasture and the actual sanctuary. So quite a lot of it would be forest stuff. But with 50 acres, I mean, you can have a lot, hundreds and hundreds of
animals,
of sheep living their best lives.
Yeah, awesome. How many do you have today?
Today I have 12. I could have 100, but I've had to, because I don't own that land. If I'd taken on any more, I would have outstayed my my welcome. So I had to be very careful about that. It's really hard saying no, because I look at each one as being, because I know them so well, and I know how all of my animals all have unique personalities. I know that they're all individuals. Yeah. So it's really hard. It's like saying, it's the same thing. It's like it's really hard saying no. But I just, until I've got that that space, I just can't really take on any more, because it just becomes too difficult. But you don't want to have too many, because you want to be able to give the ones that you do have a good life. And the weird thing about it is I actually am kind of being a farmer. Yeah. Like I'm doing the same thing as what farmers are doing. It's just really, instead of sending them off, to slaughter at a certain age, I'm just keeping them. But I'm doing exactly the same thing, except I'm just doing it through their whole lives, right? So a lot of the time I'm doing similar things that you're going to see farmers doing on like Country Calendar and stuff. Like I'm bringing them in and having to, because in Taranaki we get so much rain and it's quite hilly, it's terrible on their hooves. So like every 2 weeks I'm having to kind of bring their hooves in and clean them out and trim them and spray them because they get infections. And I'm doing all these kind of things that basically farmers do.
These lambs sound like they're spoiled.
Oh, then they're spoiled rotten. They are spoiled rotten. The amount of work
I wish I got that kind of service. I could live somewhere and everyone just looked after me,
Yeah, no, they're spoiled rotten. The amount of work I have to do, like in the morning, it's been raining the last couple of weeks, so they have free access to stables. Right. So as soon as it rains, obviously they don't want to sit out in the rain, so they come in and rest in the stables, right? Yeah. And but they leave a big mess. So like the first thing in the morning is I've got to clean up this big mess, and they've kind of made a big mess down where the stables. To clean that up, and then they've walked up and they've had some hay and they made a big mess up here. And I'm like, it is actually to give them that good life. It is actually quite a lot of work. Like the first hour of my day is like, oh, and I've got a meeting coming up, but I'm cleaning up all this poo and stuff and sweeping.
Maybe one day with AI, you can like put a chip in them and you can talk to them. Say, hey, don't do that.
Yeah, and just don't do it there, over there, right? And if you do it here, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, you can just automate the whole thing and then go on holidays.
Yeah, we could bribe them. So I'll give you pellets if you don't pee there or don't poo there.
Exactly. Yeah, bribe them. That's awesome. Hey, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, no
it's
problem.
been a good chat.
Yeah,
and you're welcome anytime. I hope it goes well, and I'd love to come and visit.
Absolutely welcome to come up anytime.
Yeah, awesome, man. All right, bye, everybody.